When Jesus rose from the grave, there were many who were risen with him, who were risen to immortality and ultimately went to heaven. Don't get it confused that those who Jesus raised from the dead while he was alive, they were just made alive again as normal humans, not immortal. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you. That's depending where you are in the world. We're doing the nighttime devotion from the devotional Christ Triumphant. The title today is, I've lost it. First fruits of victory over death. Matthew 27:52-53. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. During his ministry, Jesus raised the dead to life. He raised the son of the widow of Nain and Jairus' daughter and Lazarus. But these were not clothed with immortality. After they were raised, they continued to be subject to death and decay. But those who came forth from the grave at Christ's resurrection were raised to everlasting life. They were the multitude of captives who ascended with him as trophies of his victory over death and the grave. These went into the city and appeared unto many, declaring, Christ has risen us from the dead, and we be risen with him. Some were terrified at the sight. They bore the most undeniable evidence not only of their own resurrection, but of the resurrection of the crucified Redeemer. After his resurrection, Christ did not show himself to save his followers, but testimony in regards to his resurrection was not wanting. It came from various sources, including from the 500 who assembled in Galilee to see their risen Lord. This testimony could not be quenched. The sacred facts of Christ's resurrection were immortalized. Those who had been raised were presented as trophies to the heavenly universe, samples of the resurrection of all who receive and believe in Jesus as their personal Savior. They were a symbol of the final resurrection of the righteous. That same power that has raised Christ from the dead will raise his church as his bride and glorify it with Christ above all principalities, above all powers, above every name that is named, not only in this world, but in the heavenly courts, the world above. Christ was the first fruits of them that slept. This very scene, the resurrection of Christ from the dead, was observed in type by the Jews at one of their sacred feasts called the Feast of the Jews. They came up to the temple when the first fruits had been gathered in and held a feast of thanksgiving. The first fruits of the harvest crop were sacredly dedicated to the Lord. As Christ ascends while in the act of blessing his disciples, an army of angels encircles him as a cloud. Christ takes with him the multitude of captives as his trophy. He will himself bring to the Father the firstfruits of them that slept, to present them to God as an assurance that he is conqueror over death and the grave. First fruits of victory over death. So, where Jesus raised the various people from the dead, including Lazarus, it doesn't mean to say they were immortalized. It just means he brought them back to life to live again as a human. But those that were raised after Christ was resurrected, immediately after he was resurrected, those were the likes of, I don't know, the righteous. There was many. They rose as immortal to everlasting life, to attend with him and go to heaven. And I especially like the last bit. As Christ descends while in the act of blessing his disciples, an army of angels encircles him as a cloud. Now remember, the disciples were told, just as you saw him go to heaven, that is how you will see him come back for the second time. He went, and there was a cloud, an army of angels that was so many, it looked like a cloud in the sky. And he went, and they accompanied him, the angels. That is how he will come. You will see a cloud, and then Jesus will come through that cloud, which will be all the angels. And that's when he'll come to get us.